You may remember the name Martin Shkreli. He's the hedge fund manager who jacked up the price of a life-saving drug back in 2015. Well, now a federal court has sentenced him to 7 years in prison.
Former pharmaceutical executive Martin Shkreli sentenced to 7 years today in prison.
Sentence of 84 months with credit for time served for Martin Shkreli. That's 7 years.
So how exactly does a pharmaceutical executive get 7 years in prison? Well, securities fraud. But the story's a little more complicated than that. To start this off, we have to go back to 1983 in Shkreli's hometown.
Brooklyn be the home of the hardest ever.
Martin Shkreli was born on March 17, 1983 in Coney Island Hospital, Brooklyn. His parents were both immigrants that worked as janitors, and he grew up in a working-class community with 2 sisters and a brother. Shkreli's interest in the stock market started when he was very young, and at the age of 16 he dropped out of high school to go work on Wall Street. He ended up getting his diploma through an internship at the Wall Street hedge fund Kramer, Berkowitz & Company when he was 17 years old. So Shkreli's first job on Wall Street was working for this lunatic.
Hey, I'm Kramer. Welcome to Mad Money.
Look at this guy.
IBM August 95 calls. I want an offering on 1,000. I want an offering on 1,000. I want an offering on 1,000.
You want 10 more of each?
Yes, double down, double down. I want 1,000.
What a guy. So in 2003, during his time at Kramer, Berkowitz & Co., Shkreli recommended short-selling Regeneron Pharmaceuticals, which is a company that was testing a weight loss drug. And he was right. Regeneron stock sank 57%, which was the lowest in almost 4 years, and the short-selling play started printing money. This trade caught the attention of the SEC, and they opened up an investigation. You know what they say?
Every time someone rises up in this world, there's always going to be some asshole trying to drag him down.
And they definitely did try to drag him down, but after a long investigation, they found no evidence of wrongdoing, and Shkreli was right back at it. After 4 years at Kramer, Berkowitz & Co., Shkreli started working as a financial analyst for Intrepid Capital Management and then UBS Wealth Management. And in 2006, Shkreli started his own hedge fund called Aliyah Capital Management. 1 year later, Aliyah Capital Management was sued by Lehman Brothers after Shkreli failed to cover a put option transaction betting against the broad market. And when the market went up, Shkreli was $2.3 million in debt to Lehman Brothers. But fortunately for him, they filed for bankruptcy and the company dissolved before they could collect the settlement. In 2009, Shkreli started the hedge fund MSMB Capital Management. Their business strategy was basically to short biotech companies and then describe their flaws on stock trading chat rooms. Basically, they would short a stock and then talk shit about it. And this worked really well for them, until it didn't. In 2011, Shkreli founded Retrophin, which was a pharmaceutical biotech company that focused on the treatment of rare diseases. A few weeks after Retrophin had been founded, one of MSMB's short positions imploded. They had been shorting Orexigen Therapeutics and sold short 32 million shares at $2.50. This was after the stock had dropped from $9.09 when the FDA declined to approve a drug they had been developing. Shkreli thought it would keep going down, but the stock rebounded and MSMB was completely wiped out. With his company destroyed and nothing but a $7 million debt, Shkreli did the one thing any hedge fund manager would do. He lied to investors and lied to the press, and repaid investors with stock from his other company. This, unfortunately for Shkreli, is fraud. But we'll get back to that later. After this incident, Shkreli was replaced by the Retrophin board, and he resigned soon after. In 2015, Shkreli founded Turing Pharmaceuticals. This company was very similar to Retrophin, but with one major difference in the way they made money. In the drug business, when a pharmaceutical company makes a drug, they get a patent that's good for 20 years. And after that patent expires, any old drug company can research that drug, get FDA approval, and start manufacturing it as a generic version. But this process can be very expensive and usually takes 10 to 15 months to get FDA approval. So typically, companies will only make a generic version of a drug if there's enough people to buy it to be profitable. So drugs with very small demand usually don't have a generic version because it's not profitable to do the research and sell it. This means there's typically no competition with drugs that are not commonly used. Shkreli realized he was able to use this lack of competition to his advantage, and on August 10, 2015, Turing acquired Daraprim, a medication that was approved by the FDA in 1953 from Impact Laboratories for $55 million. Daraprim is a drug mainly used to treat patients with AIDS. The patent for Daraprim had expired, and there was no generic version of the drug, meaning no competition. So Turing decided to increase the drug price from $13.50 to $750 per pill overnight. Although some people saw him as a smart capitalist, this change in price made him the most hated man in America, and many people agreed with that title.
Where this young guy raised the price to a level that's absolutely ridiculous, and he looks like a spoiled brat to me. You want to know the truth? He looks like a spoiled brat.
There's no excuse. Look, we want companies to get a fair return. That's the way our system works. There's no excuse from going from $13.50 to $750.
At first, Shkreli didn't agree with this title and often defended his decision to increase the price of Daraprim.
There's a company that was selling an Aston Martin at the price of a bicycle, and we buy that company, and we ask to charge Toyota prices. I don't think that should be a crime. We're simply charging the right price that the market's missed, the prior owners have missed, and we're doing something very good with those profits.
Eventually, Shkreli started wearing the title of Most Hated Man in America with pride.
I'm a genius, and I'm rich, and you are poor, and you sound stupid.
They pay full price because fuck them, why shouldn't they?
Do you think you've done anything wrong?
On the advice of counsel, I invoke my Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination and respectfully decline to answer your question.
Shkreli was also active on social media, constantly giving people more reasons to hate him. But there was one community that accepted him, and that was Wall Street Bets. He actually still posts on there through an intermediary. Shkreli eventually made a statement saying that he would decrease the price of Daraprim. He later reversed this statement.
Psych! If you could rewind the clock a few months, I wonder if you would do anything differently.
I probably would have raised the price higher, is probably what I would have done.
Shkreli was making huge profits because anyone that needed Daraprim had to go through Turing, and they did have legitimate plans to put that money back into research to help save lives, but Shkreli was making more money than he even knew what to do with. In 2015, Wu-Tang Clan made a single copy of their 7th studio album. Shkreli ended up purchasing this for $2 million, making it the most expensive piece of music ever bought.
That's the album, yeah.
After this, Shkreli contacted Kanye West and asked to buy the rights to The Life of Pablo for $10 million. When Kanye didn't respond, he upped the price to $15 million. Later that year, on December 17, 2015, Shkreli's success story came to a halting end when he was arrested for multiple accounts of securities fraud. Shkreli paid the $5 million bail and was out the next day, but after this tweet, which was considered a solicitation of assault, his bail was revoked. And on August 4, 2017, Shkreli was found guilty on 2 accounts of securities fraud and 1 account of conspiracy to commit securities fraud. He was sentenced 7 years in prison. Shkreli is currently being held in federal prison and is scheduled for release on September 14, 2023. Shkreli's life truly is a story of rags to riches, except it's rags to riches to prison. But regardless, the story of Martin Shkreli and his impact on Wall Street will never be forgotten. And as Shkreli said from his prison cell, "Let my situation be a cautionary tale on the perils of YOLO. Despite this, YOLO,